All right, guys, we have arrived, and with us a whole bunch of crummy goings on. Let's recap them item from the Hill. Halloween is again upon us. Across the United States, the prospect of frightening images have some pledging to skip the holiday or closely shield their children. It's not the scary decorations or costumes, but cultural appropriation that has triggered a tradition of recrimination and anger. Colleges and universities have warned students not to dress as Indian chiefs or Mexican bandits, while parents have publicly debated whether they can allow their children to dress as the Black Panther or Moana without being accused of cultural appropriation or racism. Unquote. Well, my friends, what do you think? What do you think about where we've arrived as a nation? If you go to this article, it comes from thehill.com. They have a list of costumes that you just can't wear anymore on Halloween. For example, if you wear one of those big inflatable Japanese sumo wrestler costumes, can't do it. Cultural appropriation. I'm assuming that if you're studying the martial arts, you can no longer, if you're white or if you're black, you can no longer dress up in a gi, a karate uniform, because after all, that's an Asian cultural prop. Am I right? So black kids can't dress up as pilgrims because pilgrims were white. Hispanics can only dress like Hispanic. Do you get where I'm going? This is the PC culture gone wild. People now, I suppose, they don't have enough to worry about, so they're worried about costumes on Halloween. This comes from the left, the loony left, where common sense is always turned topsy-turvy. It is the latest little bit of poison injected into our bloodstream, our societal bloodstream. Reject it. Ignore it. Let it pass like earth shoes and pet rocks. Let it go. Mood rings. One day they'll look back on our society and it's cultural appropriation garbage and they'll think, what the hell were those people thinking? Well, the answer is simple. The people involved in cultural appropriation are not thinking. They're only feeling. They're liberals. As a rule, they don't think. They only feel, which is what gets them into trouble, and I couldn't care less, except they get us into trouble along with them. So you find someone lecturing you about cultural appropriation, you put your finger right back in their face and say, butt out. If you're so easily offended, find yourself a good psychiatrist, sit down on his couch, and have a good cry. But don't tell me what's acceptable and what's not, and don't be a snowflake that melts at the slightest warmth, the slightest provocation. It is bananas. It's Wednesday. It's Riell Truth. We'll be right back.
Colorado since 1994. We specialize in guns and currently have over 400 guns for sale. We also buy, sell, pawn, and trade for gold, silver, musical instruments, knives, archery equipment, quads, side-by-side, coins, and a lot more. We buy gun collections and do appraisals, which is smart for insurance purposes should a claim arise. We are, according to ATF, Colorado's second highest volume gun dealer, and because we have a lot lower overhead than the big box stores, we can beat the big box stores by as much as $100 per gun. And we have the lowest interest rates in northern Colorado, half of what the corporate stores charge if you're doing a loan. Come and see us at Grandpa's Pawn and Gun. If you love guns, if you love gold, come and see us. Check us out on the web, www.grandpaspawn.com or 303-772-7952.
Grandpa, the Patriot Trading Group is a different kind of gold and silver company, cleaning up the industry for 21 years. Are you tired of the high-pressure sales tactic, the constant phone calls? Are you done with the bait and switch? You just want to be treated fairly with honesty and respect? That's exactly what you get when you call 800-951-0592. You have my word on it. I'm Joe Jakeman, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group. Check us out online at allamericangold.com.
All right, guys, let's kick it off. Mark Simone Show, Ann Coulter from earlier today. Go.
Ann Coulter.
Yeah, they may not be happy in Honduras, but it's a mess and it's a toilet that they have created. What gives them the right to export that Honduran toilet culture to the United States? Well, there is no right. If they're living in a sewer, let them improve it. Let them stay in their country, make it better rather than fleeing, because that makes them cowards.
In a better life. I particularly like the Caribbean. I mean, for example,
Well, I addressed this yesterday, folks. And if Mark Simone wasn't listening to my show yesterday, well, that's on him. Speaking as an Orthodox Jew, I am here to tell you Donald Trump is a wonderful friend to the Jewish people. The liberals on the media stations, the liberal outlets, they call him an anti-Semite because are you going to stop them from calling him that? They just want the word out there, and they're hoping that their low-information voter listeners will simply pick it up and start repeating it as dummies often do. So there's no logic, there's no fact. I go back to what Ann Coulter said before. It was a great comment I hadn't heard before. Republicans worry that voters won't understand what they're doing. Liberals worry that voters will understand what they're doing and what they're saying, because what they're saying is a lie. We'll be back. More Real Truth.
Grandpa's Pawn and Gun, serving Longmont in the Front Range of Colorado since 1994. We specialize in guns and currently have over 400 guns for sale. We also buy, sell, pawn, and trade for gold, silver, musical instruments, knives, archery equipment, quads, side-by-side, coins, and a lot more. We buy gun collections and do appraisals, which is smart for insurance purposes should a claim arise. We are, according to ATF, Colorado's second highest volume gun dealer, and because we have a lot lower overhead than the big box stores, we can beat the big box stores by as much as $100 per gun. And we have the lowest interest rates in northern Colorado, half of what the corporate stores charge when you're doing a loan. Come and see us at Grandpa's Pawn and Gun. If you love guns and you love gold, come and see us. Check us out on the web, www.grandpaspawn.com or 303-772-7952.
Higher rates, lower rates, negative rates, bail-ins, bail-outs, and so much more. You know why you need to own gold and silver. At the Patriot Trading Group, we're a different kind of company. We have no commission salespeople, no boiler room sales calls, no high-price spokesmen. We believe in treating you with honesty and respect and delivering you the best product at the best price. Buying or selling, call us at 800-951-0592 or go to our website at allamericangold.com.
Constitution.
All right, we're back. Howard, Real Truth. You know, there are certain times when Democrats notice that black people exist. They're right before elections because they want blacks to know that we, the Democrats, we're helping you. Well, thanks to social media, black Americans are realizing that no, Democrats don't help the black community, have not helped the black community, and in fact, have helped to submerge the black community for decades. To wit, here's Larry Elder talking to Dave Rubin about Black Lives Matter, racism. This comes from, it comes from a while back. It's not current, but it's relevant. Here we go, Larry Elder.
I want to get this right, so I want to look at my notes for this. According to this, you are black. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That is correct. Okay.
Not African American. That's not a term I like.
How come you don't like the term African?
Ridiculous. I was born and raised in America. I've never been to Africa. Why am I an African American? Most of my people have been here longer than most the other people in this room, yet most people don't have a hyphen. I'm an Italian American, Greek American, Romanian American. It's an absurd term. It's a term that Jesse Jackson almost single-handedly crammed down the throats of our media, and after Jackson began to talk about why blacks should have some connection to Africa, all of a sudden, New York Times, LA Times, all of the media began using that expression. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't use the term African American that much because one time I had a guest on the show and I referred to her as African American. She said, well, I'm actually Jamaican. So, you know what I mean? So I guess that goes to your point.
And I remember reading one time, Dave, somebody was given a description of some suspect who had done some crime, was running away, and he was described as an African American. How do you know where he was from? Could have been from Africa, could have been from Jamaica, could have been from Canada.
So what do you make of that when someone like, because I know you really rail against Jesse Jackson and these guys on the left that use, and I want to talk a lot about identity politics.
Okay.
So the guys that use these phrases, what are they going for there?
Well,
what is the goal?
The goal is to tell black people that we're victims, that discrimination and racism remain major problems in America when in fact they don't. And they want black people to vote for the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party gets 95% of the black vote. And the reason they get it is because blacks are convinced that the number one issue facing the country right now is social justice, racist white cops, discrimination, systemic racism, microaggression, whatever new word they come up with. And it's a bunch of nonsense. The number one problem domestically facing this country is the breakdown of the family. And President Obama said it. I didn't. A black kid, or a kid, not just a black kid, a kid raised without a dad is 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crimes, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. So you're far more likely to end up in jail without having a dad than you are because of a white racist cop.
Right. So, but you wouldn't not acknowledge that there are some systemic issues.
Give me an example. Tell me what you think the most systemic racist issue is. What is it?
Well, I would say that because black people, in most cases, in many cases, were descendants of slaves, that racism as an institution, that it just a certain amount of it just exists.
2015. Give me the most blatant racist example you can come up with right now.
I think you could probably find evidence that, in general, cops are more willing to shoot if the perpetrator is black.
What's your data?
Than white.
What's your basis for saying that? Last year.
Well, look, I know a lot of people would say, "Look what's going on in Chicago."
I know what they would say.
Yeah.
I'm talking about what the facts are. 965 people were shot by cops last year and killed. 4% of them were white cops shooting unarmed blacks. In Chicago in 2011, 21 people were shot and killed by cops. In 2015, there were 7. In Chicago, which is a third black, a third white, and a third Hispanic, 70% of the homicides are black on black. About 40 per month, almost 500 per year last year in Chicago, and 75% of them are unsolved. Where is the Black Lives Matter on that? The idea that a racist white cop shooting unarmed black people is a peril to black people is BS. It's complete and total BS. And the reason for these so-called activists saying this is the assumption that racism remains a major problem in America. The media, CNN, especially MSNBC, runs down whenever a black cop shoots somebody, and it's some march on Washington. It's ridiculous. Black people, half the homicides in this country are committed by and against black people. Last year there were 14,000 homicides. Not talking about suicides, I'm talking about homicides. Mm-hmm. Half of them were black, 96% of them black on black of that 7,000. Where's the Black Lives Matter people on that?
So there's where you would say that this is purely because of social justice. This is purely because they want ultimately for people to be angry enough to just keep voting Democrat.
That's right. And where's the evidence of the lack of social justice? When a black suspect is killed by a cop, believe me, the media is on it. People are watching it, and justice will, for the most part, occur. In Baltimore, where Freddie Gray was killed. Freddie Gray died in a van. I shouldn't say was killed. Died in a van.
Yeah.
You have a city that's 45% black. City council is 100% Democrat. The majority of city council is black. The top cop at the time was black. The number 2 cop was black. The majority of the command staff is black. The mayor is black. The AG is black. And yet here we are talking about racism. I mean, it's absurd.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
So it's funny, I find myself caught in between this a little bit as a liberal where I want to always try to defend the other. So in this case, the other being black people, I'm always sympathetic to that.
Stop. Hang on there, Dave. As a liberal, he says, he always wants to help the other. Well, the clear inference is that if you're a conservative, you don't want to help the other. Well, let's take a look at it. I mentioned in introducing this video that the Democrats have crippled the black community in America. How have they done that? Democrats, going all the way back to FDR, and certainly hit its stride with LBJ, decided we're going to help black America. We're going to give them things. We're going to up the welfare. We're going to up single mother payments. We're going to have affirmative action. All the different things that we have to give the blacks, because unless we give them to them, they won't be able to earn them. I can't think of anything more racist than that. Compare that, we're talking about helping blacks, compare that with conservatives who say, yeah, we can help every group to stand on their feet, be independent so they don't need anyone else's help. That's what a conservative says, and so tell me, who's really helping the black community? Liberals like this guy, Dave Rubin, or conservatives who want everyone to be self-sufficient?
And at the same time, I hear you laying out a pretty solid case.
These are just the facts. I'll tell you something else, too. There was just a study, University of Washington, and it turns out cops were more reluctant, more hesitant to pull the trigger against a black suspect than a white suspect. Probably because of the fear of being accused of racially profiling and the fear that the civil rights establishment was going to come down on him. So, if anything, whites are more likely to be shot by a cop under certain circumstances than a black person. And in the last 30 or 40 years, the percentage of suspects killed by cops who are black has declined 75%. However, the percentage of whites killed by cops has flatlined.
Yeah.
And so, if anything, people are more concerned about shooting black people for fear that they're going to be called racist. And almost every one of these incidents, whether it's Eric Gardner in New York, who died because he was selling Lucy's and resisted arrest, whether it's Tamir Rice in Cleveland, who was twirling around the gun, whether it's Michael Brown in Ferguson, who had just committed an strong-arm robbery, almost every one of these incidents involves somebody resisting arrest. Why don't you just do what the police tell you? My dad said when I get pulled over, have my hand at 10 o'clock, have my hand at 2 o'clock, say yes, sir, say no, sir, make sure my paperwork is in order, and if I feel the cop is mistreating me, get a badge number and deal with it later on. If Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and Obama and the whole group of them told black people to do that, we'd have a lot fewer of these things to deal with in the first place.
Yeah. All right, so I'm with you. I'm hearing a lot of what you're saying here. So as a black conservative, then, who now you've laid out your case there.
But you haven't laid out yours. I asked you to name the most important example of racism, and you gave white cops going after black people. And I told you, gave you the facts for that, so that's nonsense. So you must have something else. What else is it? If you think racism remains a problem in America, give it to me.
Well, I think it remains a problem. It may not be systemic in that it's not like you're not being hired because you're black. There's no systemic reason, legal reason that exists, that kind of thing. But I think that racism as a general
I need some specifics. You gave me the white cop thing. What else? Give me another example.
My friends, this is such a perfect explanation. I'm tempted to say it's black and white, but I won't do that. It's too easy. Here's this guy, Dave Rubin, who describes himself as a liberal. He may be a very nice guy. I don't know him. But he has this pervasive sense. He gets a feeling that there's racism. Here you have Larry Elder, who is black and a conservative, and says, good, show me the proof. Silence. David Rubin says, well, it's not systemic, but there's there's black, there's racism. And the conservative Larry Elder says, give me an example. In fact, he says it about 10 times. Because Larry Elder is a conservative. He thinks he's involved with facts and truth. Dave Rubin, the liberal, he's got this kind of mood and a feeling and a hunch, nothing specific. And that is the way, just as I've been telling you for over 10 years, that's the way liberals approach life. And they're very, very dangerous because of that.
What do you think is the problem?
Well, as a black conservative, tell me how do you get people to come around to
You're the one who made the assertion that you think racism remains a major problem in America. I asked you to give me an example. You gave me white cops going after blacks. As far as I'm concerned, you didn't hold it up very well. What's the other argument you have? What's the other thing?
Well, I don't know that it's systemic in the sort of macro sense.
He's repeating himself and cannot and will not get specific because, once again, as a self-described liberal, he doesn't like facts. He likes vague, general feelings that he has. And what that also means is, because he can't prove what he's saying is real, it means that you can't disprove that it's real. Try punching a cloud. You can't hit anything, and that's what his thought process is. It's a feeling. It's an amorphous mass of mist. And that's why liberals don't change their minds, because they can't think.
Yeah, I just want to know what it is you're talking about.
That's exactly what, believe me, that's 100% what I wanted to have you.
Blacks are not getting into school, BS, that we have affirmative action, so a black person with an SAT and a GPA of X will get into a school faster and easier than a white person with an SAT or a GPA of X. And if going to school is a route to the middle class, you can make an argument that blacks have an easier route to the middle class. If you're talking about about poverty, the poorer you are, the more accessible loans and grants are for you. The problem, the biggest burden that black people have, in my opinion, again, is the percentage of blacks, 75% of them, that are raised without fathers. And that has every other social negative consequence connected to it. Crime, not being able to compete economically in the country, being more likely to be arrested, that's the number one problem facing the black community. When I hear people tell me about systemic racism or unconscious racism, I always say, give me an example, and almost nobody can do it.
So the family stuff. So I'll follow the last bit. The family stuff. What can actually be done about that then? I mean, because that's a big
reverse the welfare state. In 1890, 1900, we look at census reports. A black kid, believe it or not, was slightly more likely to be born to a nuclear intact family than a white kid.
Absolutely. Larry Elder's about to go into it. We're going to be off in 2 minutes for a commercial, but he's going to make the point that in the early 1900s, blacks were doing great. Their families were together. They were attending colleges, good colleges, getting good educations. They were beginning to embrace the American dream, and along came liberalism, reduced them to victims and children, and the black community has been suffering ever since.
Even during slavery, a black kid was more likely
That's right. Bingo! They would tell black women you can get welfare if there's no man in the house. So guess what happened then? You can't guess, can you? The men in the black households left so that women could get welfare. So they didn't get married so they could get welfare. So they broke up the families so they could get welfare. That's how liberalism destroyed, in large measure, black America. It's shameful, it's shocking, it continues to this day, and I have no idea why a black person would vote Democrat, except through ignorance, which now has been dispelled. We'll be back.
Ladies and gentlemen, confidence the premier. Well, it had to happen. Colorado legalized marijuana. Most people thought the pre-marijuana was a marijuana dispensary. Also, it was legalized on January the 1st, 2014. The same day we opened our new location at 4565 Gibbon Street, 1.5 blocks south of I-7. There are 83,000 cars a day testing in front of our new location on Gibbon Street. Most of them thought we were a marijuana dispensary. So we changed the name of our retail store to New Digital Health, but we kept the name of our green herb zone. So if you come to our new location, look for our new name, New Digital Health, or call us at 888-765-HERB. That's 888-765-4372. And be sure to listen to the Healthy Nature Show within the building every Tuesday at 1 p.m. The Patriot Trading Group is a different kind of gold and silver company, cleaning up the industry for 21 years. Are you tired of the high-pressure sales tactics, the constant phone calls? Are you done with the bait and switch? You just want to be treated fairly with honesty and respect? That's You got my word on it. I'm Joe Jig with Kim of the Patriot Trading Group. Check us out online at allamericangold.com.
Grandpa's Pawn and Gun, serving Longmont and the Front Range of Colorado since 1994. We specialize in guns and currently have over 400 guns for sale. We also buy, sell, pawn, and trade for gold, silver, musical instruments, knives, archery equipment, quads, side-by-side, coins, and a lot more. We buy gun collections and do appraisals, which is smart for insurance purposes should a claim arise. We are, according to ATF, Colorado's second highest volume gun dealer, and because we have a lot lower overhead than the big box stores, we can beat the big box stores by as much as $100 per gun. And we have the lowest interest rates in northern Colorado, half of what the corporate stores charge when you're doing a loan. Come and see us at Grandpa's Pawn and Gun. If you love guns and you love gold, come and see us. Check us out on the web, www.grandpaspawn.com or 303-772-7952. Grant?
But at the Patriot Trading gold.com.
Folks, it was Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel back when he was the chief of staff for Barack Obama, who said never let a crisis go to waste. And he was summing up the Democrats' strategy. Whenever there's some kind of terrible tragedy, that's when the Democrats make an incursion to try and limit our freedoms. Here's Tucker Carlson on Fox News talking about how the left uses tragedy, in this case, to control free speech. Take it away, Tucker.
Good evening and welcome to
and that might have, he had other, criteria, but it wasn't just what the opponents of Donald Trump or the conservatives said. Okay, we accept that. And then all of a sudden, with these latest two incidents with the pipe bomber, Mr. Sayak, and with the synagogue shootings, we're told that it's somehow Donald Trump, but it's not. We don't know anything about the cause and effect. We don't know whether he was too pro-Israel and therefore he brought people out of the woodwork and they're angry with him, or that he was too anti-Israel and he empowered the alt-right. They can't even get it straight. So we don't get, the American people think, well, wait a minute, I don't like hate speech or tough speech, but I don't know what the rules are. It's not symmetrical. It looks like it's a left-wing electronic, reign of terror. These self-appointed Facebook Robespierre in a nanosecond can guillotine you. And people don't like that. So we're saying, what are the rules of speech? And from what you and I and others have seen of Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, the masters of the universe in Silicon lack either the intellect or the morality to tell us what is permissible speech. So we don't know who to turn to, this confusion. So maybe we just go back to the Sermon on the Mount and say to ourselves, let's treat people the way we would like to treat them. I would tell that to Hillary Clinton. Maybe when Mitt Romney lost in 2012, he didn't say, I'm not going to be civil until the next election. Or when George Bush quite graciously accepted that he was out of office in 2009, he didn't go around the country as Obama is now calling the President of the United States an inveterate liar. So I think it's asymmetrical, and people understand that until the adjudicators know they can't adjudicate us because they don't have the moral high ground.
Well, they definitely don't have the moral authority to decide who speaks. But I wonder if their assumption is right. So what they're saying is that certain ideas are so bad that they cause violence.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's even possible for any society to ever squelch ideas. Doesn't that cause, and I'm not just saying this is a left-right phenomenon, it's just a human phenomenon, when you try and prevent people from having unapproved thoughts, don't you create extremism?
Yeah, I think that's an age-old dilemma. It goes back to the Greeks, and we in the West have decided that we don't want the medicine to be worse than the disease, of censorship and setting up a censor board that tells us who can say what. So we err on the side of free speech, and it's especially pertinent when the people who are wanting to censor free speech right now don't want to do it symmetrically. They feel that because they're more noble, or that Donald Trump is some type of ogre, that they have deserved, because of their noble ends, any means necessary to further their moral project.
Any means necessary. It's a very dangerous way to look at the world. We'll be right back.
Every year we hear of some killer virus or pandemic that affects us. So far, it hasn't happened, but I believe it may not be too far away. If or when it happens, you need to have your immune system in top form. I keep my immune system in top form with System Food. 60 capsules of System Food cost only $17.50. 150 capsules is $35, and you can special order the family size of 720 capsules for $129.95. Sometimes one of our cleansers should be taken with System Food. For your bottle of System Food, call 888-765-HERB. That's 888-765-4372. And remember, our new location is located at 4565 Kipling Street in Twin Ridge, Colorado, 1.5 blocks south of I-70 on the west side.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
All right, guys, I'm going to go back to Tucker Carlson. He had Tammy Bruce on his show yesterday or maybe the day before, talking about Richard Avenatti. That's Stormy Daniels. Okay. All right, we're back. Let me throw it back to Tucker Carlson, who was talking about Richard Avenatti. That's the sleazy porn lawyer who thinks one day he might be president. It doesn't seem very likely. Here's Tucker, and his guest will be Tammy Bruce. Listen to these liberal idiots fawning over this sleazebag. It makes me sick.
Is elevating his profile.
Creepy porn lawyer being looked at by liberal morons as the savior of the republic. Their words, not mine. I think that was Joy Behar, who is truly an empty-headed liberal, looking at the creepy porn lawyer as a savior. We got a minute left before the commercial. Let's go back to Ann Coulter.
Yes, it's really weird. I mean, that is the debate on cable TV. Well, is he going to finally apologize?
Also the greatest friend ever to Israel in decades. So how do they twist this around? It's somehow his fault.
Because he's a very, very icky person. He's responsible for everything bad. No, it's utterly illogical, and it shows you that you know, having Jared and Ivanka isn't helping, so he may as well get rid of them.
Yeah. So, Florida, what you would think this crazy Mayor Gillum, who made a mess out of his city, would have no shot, but the Republican candidate hasn't been too great here in this campaign.
Yeah, I can't really understand. The two states that confuse me the most right now are Arizona and Florida. In Arizona, you have really kind of a loon, that woman who would show up in tutus to denounce the U.S. military. That's the Democrat running. And denounce Arizonans. They have all these tapes of her from just a few years back. She's like a code pink lady. Cinema, I think her name is. And McSally is the Republican candidate. And they're running neck and neck. Now, I know Arizona isn't as red as people generally think it is. They did have John McCain and Jeff Flake.
Now, you do. I share Ann's bewilderment at why so many people want to vote Democrat. We'll take a break. We'll come back.
Every year we hear of some killer virus or pandemic. So far, it hasn't happened, but I believe it may not be too far away. If or when it happens, you need to have your immune system in top form. I keep my immune system in top form with system food. 60 capsules of system food cost only $17.50. 150 capsules is $35, and you can special order a family size of 720 capsules for $129.95. Sometimes one of our cleansers should be taken with system food. For your bottle of system food, call 888-765-HERB. That's 888-765-4372. And remember, our new location is located at 4565 Kipling Street in Big Beach, Colorado, 1.5 blocks south of I-70 on the west side. Higher rates, lower rates, negative rates, bail-in, bail-outs, and so much more. You know why you need to own gold and silver. At the Patriot Trading Group, we're a different kind of company. We have no commission salespeople, no boiler room sales calls, no high-price spokesmen. We believe in treating you with honesty and respect and delivering you the best product at the best price. Buying or selling, call us at 800-951-0592 or go to our website at allamericangold.com.
All right, guys, we're almost done. Let's listen to the end of this Ann Coulter interview with Mark Simone.
So they go for Democrats. McSally was the establishment Republican. I'm hoping that the people who are telling pollsters they're not voting for McSally are the Trumpsters, angry that the primary voters didn't pick the MAGA Republican, and on election day their lives will flash before their eyes. They'll run out and vote Republican. But that one is baffling, and Florida is baffling, because you're right, not really that impressive a Democrat. I mean, I guess he's charismatic, but corrupt, and he just had something completely insane today. What was it on Twitter? You've been hours longer than I have. What was it?
I don't remember, but those two things Florida has is weather and no taxes. Here's a guy threatening to bring taxes back. You would think he had no shot at all.
Yeah, no, that would be the end of Florida if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets elected and puts in this big state tax, you're going to see everybody leave Florida. Georgia is going to become very crowded.
Not only that, I mean, Florida as New York, California, Connecticut, have been bleeding population over the years. For at least a decade now, Florida's been taking in about 1,000 new people a day. You've never seen such a clear experiment with the last decade of what very low taxes. Florida has no taxes, one of about 4 states with zero state income tax. And versus high taxes. I mean, in my own state of Connecticut, I think last year, GE pulled out because of taxes. And where did GE move to? Where? Of all the places in the country to avoid the high taxes of Connecticut. Look, they moved to Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's how bad Connecticut got. By the way, Stefanowski's the only thing that can save Connecticut, and that's neck and neck. How could that be?
Well, because all the people who pay taxes have moved out. Not a good formula for.
So here's the answer. How can it be that so many people are going to vote Democrat when clearly it's not in their best interest? The answer is the Democratic voters aren't thinking. I've said this to you before. I've said it a million times. They don't think. They feel. And because they don't think, they reflexively vote Democrat without stopping to think what it's going to do to them. They are self-destructive voters. They are plain old destructive voters. They're going to bring the house down with them.
For a booming state. Meanwhile, you go down to places like North Carolina and Florida, the places that have taken all of these citizens, and they're really booming. I mean, you get used in New York to things not working and highways not being cleaned up and just general decay. You drive around these low and no tax states, and the medians are so pretty. There are flowers all over. Vote Republican.
Well, hey, we're out of time. If you want a great book, get Ann Coulter's new book, Resistance is Futile. It's already a huge bestseller. It's your best book ever. And what was some of the comments people like? The certain things people pick out of that book to tell you about?
Oh, that's a good one. A lot of them are visual comparisons. The dossier, for example, which the media was pedal to the metal behind, and the fact that it was used for a FISA warrant was cited over and over and over again to prove the dossier must be true. And it turned out the dossier was paid for by Hillary Clinton and the exact same host, Chris Cuomo, and so on. I put the quotes side by side.
All right, guys, we're out of time. I'll be back tomorrow, and we'll wrap up the week here on Riell Truth. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay angry. I'll see you tomorrow.